Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now is a man who grew up in a much different city than all of us. I believe he's a New Yorker through and through. Yeah. We'll get his take on this. He has kids. He's obviously an Emmy Award-winning TV host. Ladies and gentlemen, friend of the program, ESPN insider, analyst, and pundit for the NFL, Peter Schrager.
Yeah.
Schrags, 67 degrees is what the thermometer is saying here at the Thunderdome. The boys don't believe it. They say it's much colder. That's a hard thing to see there because we didn't want fingies in the photo, allegedly, but that says 67, and then on the right side it says set to 67. What temperature is the Schrags house if you were to be the one setting it?
Great picture by Bruce there. I would say that first thing I do when I walk into a hotel room, and I've been in several, and this is not going to get weird, I promise. First thing I do is I turn that air conditioning to 60 degrees. I freeze that thing out completely. I rip off the top covers of whatever bed and whatever we have linens-wise, and I'm at home. But if I had my choice, we are at 60 degrees. We are freezing the place out. Unfortunately, Con Edison, the New York electricity bill goes up very high. It's too expensive in New York to do that. So we're usually at a solid 68. I think where you're at is about right.
Okay, so we'll go up 68 because Shrek says smart thing with Con Edison.
Don't go up.
Yeah, that's what we'll go 68.
Don't
Come
go
on.
up.
Maybe we'll have some T-shirts.
Don't go up.
T-shirts would be fun to see.
Don't go up.
I mean, Tone's wearing one. Foxy's wearing one.
Yeah.
Gumpy's wearing one.
I have one on. Yeah, and like I said, tough cusses in here today. But again.
All right, let's talk sports. Deshaun Elliott and Pittsburgh Steelers get a deal done. TJ Watt still without a deal. Trey Hendrickson negotiations have regained some momentum. Who knows if they're positive or negative? Which one gets done first, you think? TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson? Do you think it's about the same time?
I think TJ Watt. I feel like I know both sides are really motivated to get something done here. They don't want to go into training camp and have this thing drag on. The Rodgers domino fell. Deshaun Elliott's a nice player to have, but this was always going to be, let's get Rodgers in camp, and I think the TJ Watt deal has to get done. Now, from what I'm told, both sides want it to get done, obviously. TJ Watt's going to want a certain amount of money. Question is it a game of chicken where it's, okay, TJ Watt takes a deal that the Steelers offer, and then a week later, Micah Parsons blows his deal out of the water, and we're in the same place that we were beforehand. So it's always interesting to see when you're talking top of the market guys, who is going to take that offer first, who's motivated to get it done first, and who's willing to wait it out. Often we deal with the quarterbacks this way, but now with the pass rushers and what Myles Garrett and Max Crosby got this season, you're dealing with TJ Watt and Micah Parsons, who both believe they should be top of the market too. Who gets their deal first? Who agrees to a deal first? Could be really a game of chicken between those two guys, more so than the team versus player.
Okay, so you say TJ Watt, you think is that answer. Let's stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tone has a question for you, Shriggs.
Yeah, Shriggs, how come when we're watching TV, you're the only one on TV that is positive about Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and everyone else said, he's not even going to be a football player by Thanksgiving? What?
God forbid. God forbid that you could have some positive talk in June about Aaron Rodgers. I know everyone's got their issues with the guy, and they didn't like the fact they had to talk about him in March, April, and May before he was with a team. But guess what? He didn't miss that much. He really didn't. And I tried stressing this on both Get Up and on your show last week. Arthur Smith is a smart guy. Arthur Smith built an offense that could operate if it was with Aaron Rodgers, and then built an offense that could operate on paper when they were out with Aaron Rodgers. It wasn't like he was caught off guard when last week Aaron Rodgers decided to finally sign. It's like, oh no, what do I do? I had built the Mason Rudolph offense. What am I? This thing was fully on paper and fully ready to go. And Rodgers, of course, you heard Mark yesterday talk on your show and talk on the podcast that, like, of course the players come under his wing and they want to be with Aaron Rodgers, and he's got this great charisma. Like, it's okay to be positive about this possibility and realize that this is a different situation than it was in New York. I've got that cadence like Schefter or Pablo Torre right now.
Yeah,
I didn't know where that came from. It's different than what it was in New York, where he's not coming aboard a team and it's like, you're fully the one who's got to galvanize everyone, hire our coaching staff, figure out the wide receivers room, take the guys to Broadway, take Sauce Gardner to Carbone. Like, he's going to play football. He's got a 1-year deal, Pat, and he's got a 1-year deal with a bunch of motivated veterans. To me, this is the best situation that Pittsburgh's been in years, and these guys are going to galvanize, and they will rally around Aaron Rodgers. So to say that they've got Super Bowl expectations, and I had people rolling their eyes on set with me when I said it, They didn't go and pay DK Metcalf $30 million to not have Super Bowl expectations. They didn't go and sign Aaron Rodgers at 41 years old and sit on their hands all summer to do this to not have Super Bowl expectations. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they think that these moves make them better than last year. If I came on TV and I'm like, they believe they could be a wild card team and they're going to be eliminated in the first round, that's nothing. That's not what they believe. So do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl? I haven't made my prediction yet, but I will say this.
Tone wants to know who rolled their eyes.
They believe internally they're in a lot better place right now than they were a year ago.
Tone, as you were saying, all this thing was his cowboy hat was just going like this over in the corner. As you were saying, we can win a Super Bowl. We're in a better position than we've been in. And you talking about, if I was to go on and say we're going to win the wild card, Cam Hayward, all the boys that we saw at the Jelly Roll Post Malone concert, that's not how they're viewing it. That is not how they feel at all. And they don't think it's fair to view them that way with how much success they've had, with how little production from an offensive standpoint they've had over the last few years. Now, Russell Wilson had a good run, like 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, where they thought.
And then it petered out. Petered out. It did. And like Fields, and everyone's like, well, they really wanted Fields. They really wanted Fields. They would have paid Fields big money. Okay, that was my take on that whole thing. I think a lot of other
Jets
insiders
paid $20 million a per. I think, right?
They really wanted Stafford. Well, Stafford wasn't going. So it was the Rams wanted to retain Stafford. They just had to figure that out. And Sean and Stafford had multiple meetings to work their stuff out, and that got done. So they didn't really want Fields. If they really wanted Fields, you give them $40 million and we're there. They didn't. They didn't offer him that. Now, did Justin Fields have other options and choose the Jets over the Steelers? Yes, that's fair. That said, Aaron Rodgers at $10 million a year with incentives that can get him to 20, it's a great value. And you're rolling the dice and saying, we're sick of being mediocre. This guy might take us over the top. I understand there's a lot of personal feelings towards Aaron Rodgers out there, and I don't play in those.
That's because he's immunized. That's right. Yeah, that's when he really kicked into full speed.
I guess, but I don't know if I go to ESPN and NFL Network and Fox Sports 1 to hear people's thoughts on that anyway. So I'm just looking at the football stuff, and I'm like, he makes them better, you know?
Amen. Yeah, it's been a wild ride getting a chance to experience the Aaron Rodgers experience over the last 5 years, just because everything he does. Everything. Literally everything he does.
Yep.
If he's going shopping and there's a photo of him, boom, everybody's got an opinion. Some people's opinion is, I don't care he went shopping, but did look at photo of him shopping, did form an opinion of him shopping, and then don't care if he went shopping. I'm on TV. I'm sick of talking about Aaron Rodgers. Well, why are you doing it then? You know, don't have to. Why?
That's the best. You're on TV being paid to talk about it. And then you say to the camera, like, hey, viewer, I'm sick of talking about it. No, you're not.
No, you're not. Yeah, that's why you're doing it. And the people that are controlling what you talk about are doing it for a reason. Sorry. It's like, this dude is a talking point, and I think Pittsburgh is a good home for him. Mm-hmm. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, just like I said for Russell Wilson, like if Russell Wilson would have won for Pittsburgh, Yinzers would have won to bat for all the shit that Russell Wilson did. Just like Aaron. Aaron wins in Pittsburgh, the Yinzers they'll throw some people in the mosh.
Yeah.
We'll throw a couple people in a mind.
Yeah, for you forever. And it's like, why not? Good luck. Okay, let's move to another football program that's going through a big-time star not being, present. Go ahead, D-Butch.
Yeah, a program with Super Bowl, real Super Bowl expectations coming off an NFC Championship appearance. Young superstar quarterback, new front office. The Washington Commanders haven't taken care and locked up Terry McLaurin, their superstar wide receiver, coming off a career year. What is going on there? Do you expect this to get done before training camp and before the season gets kicked off?
Yeah, look, all the vibes out of Washington has been incredible this offseason. The only fly in the ointment has been this deal here, and I will tell you that they are motivated to get it done. I know this sounds like what we say it every time with all these star players, but like Terry knows this is his window. His agent is thinking this is when we can get him paid because this team is a rising tide and he is the leader in that locker room and is the veteran guy that has done everything right every step of the way. Adam Peters comes from the 49ers organization, brought in Deebo Samuel, made a big trade to get Laramie Tunsil. I would be shocked if we're getting into training camp and Terry McLaurin is holding out and taking punitive fines for not being there. This is a guy they want to pay, guy who stepped up and has been the great bridge in between the the down days of Dan Snyder and Ron Rivera at times to the high and mighty Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, high-powered offense. This is the one guy at a skill position who has been there for all of it and is truly the leader in the locker room. So he deserves to get paid. I don't know the number right now, but I believe that they will find a way to get this done. They don't want to lose Terry McLaurin, and they certainly don't want to trade him.
Yeah, certainly not in Jaden's second year, especially with the connection that they had.
Needs to be at least mid-30s, in my opinion. Chase got 40. CD got, 36? Justin Jefferson got 35. DK got 30.
30.
Okay, yeah, needs to be.
You put him in that conversation? I'm curious.
1,000%.
Terry?
Yeah.
Scary Terry?
Yeah, especially going into the second year with a young stud at quarterback.
How about you, Shrakes?
I do know.
Let's hear it.
like you know.
You do the scale. You do the scale, and it's like you've got your Jamar Chases, or it's like, all right, he's probably not in that conversation. But when you do mention those veteran guys who have gotten now their third deals, a DK Metcalf, and you mentioned some of these other guys, T. Higgins got his first big deal here. Is he in that? You don't think of him as this big physical presence, yet all he does is produce. And because he was a third round pick, I think that's kind of the sting on him a little bit, where people say, yeah, he's overachieved. Well, overachieved compared to what? AJ Hawk knows that Ohio State, this guy was the dude and was fantastic. He just fell in the draft and has exceeded all expectations based on his draft stock. So I am the biggest Terry McLaurin fan, and I know the voice he has in that room. And I know, as an Indianapolis native, you guys respect what he's done as well.
Yeah, we thought he was maybe going to get traded back to Indy. There was a little conversation maybe last year or 2 years ago where he was potentially going to leave the Washington football team, or I forget what their name was at the time. Maybe they were already the Commanders, where he was potentially going to be traded or something. It's like, bring him back to Indy. We would love to have Terry McLaurin. I think that's when I really started paying attention and looking into everything. He's a monster for them. He's their leader too. So it's like, I assume that will get done. I think we all assume these types of deals will get done. Third round pick, being a guy, is a beautiful story. There was a third round pick at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. What was his name?
Dylan Gabriel.
Boom. Is he going to be the starting quarterback? We have no idea. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, Shregs, we hear that they might, this Browns team might carry 4 quarterbacks on the roster. At least they're floating that idea, I guess. What do you think truly does happen to their 53-man opening day roster? And are they looking to potentially trade one of these guys?
I'd be surprised. And the two guys that I would look at is Flacco and Pickett. Now, they were aggressive in getting Joe Flacco as a free agent quarterback, brought him back. Obviously, he has a great relationship with Stefanski. Two of them had great success 2 years ago when he was the comeback player of the year, but they also acquired Kenny Pickett. I would be surprised personally if both of those veteran quarterbacks are still on the roster come week 1. And you have the 2 rookies. Usually in a situation like this, just covering the league a while like I have, you have the 2 veterans go at it. One of those guys is your veteran, and then you probably keep both rookies and you dress maybe one of them. And you've got Flacco as your starter week 1, Shador or Gabriel as your backup. Then you got one who's not active, not dressed, but is obviously still on the team. So it would be surprising with the Cleveland Browns if they kept 4 quarterbacks. I do know that this year is going to be very important for Shador and Dylan Gabriel. And the reason is they're both 3rd round and 5th round picks. And if you remember, when we were sitting together at the draft, Cleveland traded back and acquired Jacksonville's 1st round pick and their own 1st round pick. When you have 2 1st round picks of teams that are not necessarily expected to be Super Bowl contenders, quarterback is always going to be looming in every conversation. So I think they're going to want to get those guys action, Gabriel and Sanders. I think they're going to want to have one veteran quarterback. I don't know if there's a value in having both of those veteran quarterbacks and then having 2 rookies on the roster as well.
Cleveland Browns are in quite a situation, and they're paying quarterbacks more than anybody else in the NFL. And quarterback
for the one guy I didn't even mention. Yeah.
Is he? I don't even know if he's in the. Is he in the building? He's not even.
I don't know.
Probably.
I haven't heard his name.
We know who QB1's going to be in Cleveland.
Who's that?
We know.
They traded for Kenny, so him.
It'll be Hey, I love Dylan Gabriel. I love Pickett.
Oh,
I love Flacco.
it's
going to be
stop.
Shador.
Day one.
No, by week 8, Shador Sanders will be.
Judging by
that sounds right.
Judging by the ESPN.
I mean,
Cleveland
I'm dialed into ESPN Cleveland, so I'm watching this. I don't know what the hell those DBs are
16
doing.
of 18.
Yeah, I think I only saw 1 interception from all the quarterbacks. So I don't know what Denzel Ward and the boys are doing over there. But
be careful. Be careful.
I'm reading tea leaves. I'm watching.
What are you talking about, Shregs? 16 of 18.
Jackson Dart
touchdowns.
Threw 3 touchdowns today. Like, be careful.
Yeah, never going to happen.
Holy shit.
Better than not throwing them.
Put on the bottom line.
Yeah, it is a lot better than not throwing. Good call, AJ.
I get it.
Jameis threw 10.
I've never, and I respect the hell out of all the beat reporters, but I don't remember us ever charting June minicamp
Be a pro.
Passing stats.
That's the
new.
evolution.
That's attention
That's
to
new.
detail. This is what football knowledge has come
yeah.
to.
New.
That's right.
With that
That's
being
new.
said, I see some balls coming out of Shador Sanders at that game,
hell
and
yeah.
I'm like, kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah, I'm reading.
He can sling it.
Read the I see him, some of the veterans, how they talk to him, mic'd up, see what he's doing in the community.
Yep.
You talking about Njoku there?
Joku, Mike Napier. You once you see, different little interactions and things like that, I know he has the talent. We'll see. It'll be a competition that usually brings the best out of guys, especially young guys. So I'm interested to see how that quarterback situation.
I've heard he's been outstanding in the building. And I don't know. There was never no one thought he was this like malcontent or like a bag. It wasn't.
That was the
That
word,
was kind of,
Trey.
that was kind of what was
That
being
word.
said. That was kind of what was being said.
No. The pre-draft process was so unorthodox that he didn't go through it all like everyone else did. And I think there's a lot that we can look back on this thing, especially if he becomes a star in this league and say, you could point fingers in a million ways. Not having a pure agent, not having, the workouts that everyone else did, going to these teams, not necessarily being as willing to throw the ball when asked at the All-Star games. Like that kind of stuff I think might have stung him and might have turned teams off. But at no point did anyone say he's a bad kid or that he wasn't going to get along with veterans and come? I mean, this is a guy who has been training to be a professional football player since the day he was born and is ready for this moment.
I listened to Coach Prime give some motivational message, and I was like, I need to hear it. It was some video. I don't know when he said it. Could have been throughout the last 20 years. It was some motivational speech about, like blocking out the noise, keep moving, keep walking forward. Somebody posted it in one of their Instagram slides. I enjoy people that really take the time to put picture of their life obscure, weird other picture, motivational message, weird picture, video, and then there's like a wrap-up thing at the end. How do we tie these all together? I don't know. I just went for a ride here through these swipes. And then there was a Deion Sanders, Coach Prime speech that he gave at a press conference. I think he was sitting up there. And I heard it. I was like, needed to hear that. Appreciate you, Prime. Then I just kind of kept it moving. And I'm like, at that, I was in the middle of my house. I think I was walking to my bedroom. It was
What'd you do?
late last night. I stopped in the middle of it, and I was like, Shador's been hearing that his whole life.
Legit.
Shador's been hearing these messages his entire life. Feels like he would be prepared for basically any situation mentally. You would think that. Now, once you experience it, it's obviously different. But I think listening to Coach Prime say, like, this is Shador Sanders we're talking about here. Whenever people were asking a lot of questions, it's like he was saying, you don't think that I've taught him how to be a professional? That's basically what you're saying. I'm intrigued to see how it works out. Dylan Gabriel, not talked about at all. 3rd-round pick, drafted ahead of Shador Sanders. Kenny Pickett, last guy to touch ball in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Hey, it was.
And Joey Flacco, last guy to take the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. Joey Flacco. A lot of storylines obviously developing. Go ahead, Con, man.
Yeah, it's still Cleveland, so who cares?
Jeez.
Yeah, Shrakes, the Shemar Stewart situation has continued on. I'm not sure if we have talked about it since the last update. He has left the Bengals camp, I believe. There were some weird situations that look like certain videos. They weren't giving him water, but kind of questionable there. Have you seen a situation like this with Shemar Stewart being a rookie, being a 17th overall pick, not being a top 3 guy like the Bosa's that we've talked about before, but being a 17th pick where he's coming in, the Bengals are trying to slide in a first-time ever clause that they've used. I know people are talking about the chance, if this is to continue on, that Shemar Stewart goes back to the draft next year. Is that something you can actually foresee happening, or do you think this inevitably gets figured out? And how often does this happen where teams will try and slide in something for the first time ever to not screw over a player, but try and change the kind of contracts they give rookies for years in the future?
We've seen rookie holdouts throughout NFL history, but since the new CBA was signed, it's an anomaly because you're basically slotted in where you go. If you're the 17th pick, this is what you get. If you're the 18th pick, this is what you get. It is what it is. You're always going to make more than the 18th and 19th pick, whatever. In this case, it's a very Bengals-specific situation in that last year they had an 18th overall pick, and the year before that they had a 28th overall pick, and those two players did not have that clause in this contract. Other teams have it. The Bengals have not. So the agent, who is a young man named Zach Hiller, Zach is in his 20s. He's a young agent who's got a good little client base right now, and he's going up against some of the titans of the industry as far as agents go. And he's looking at this, and he's talking to his client, who is 21 years old, and he's saying to this young man, hey, Jamar Chase just signed a deal with them, and they didn't put this clause in his contract. T. Higgins just signed a deal with them a couple months ago. They didn't put this clause in his contract. The last 2 draft picks that were first-round picks by this team did not have it. So you're the first. You don't have to sign anything. You can stand on merit and stand on the fact that you don't feel comfortable signing this just in case something went catastrophically wrong. You wouldn't get guarantees in the future. You can stand on it. And now, as a 21-year-old who is a man who has his own wallet to protect, not worried about the agent's not speaking for him, Shemar Stewart believes this is his fight that he wants to fight. And I think that threw off a lot of people around the league. It throws off the Bengals, obviously. They weren't expecting it, and we're at a standstill right now. But if you look at it, why should I be the guinea pig? Why should I be the first? I would also say this. If they do sign Trey Hendrickson and they don't have this clause in the contract, I think that adds fuel to the fire and says, well, wait, what's going on here? Why is it this guy? Why am I as my client? Why am I the one? So it's interesting. I think Mike Florio had a really good article earlier this week on it where Mike said basically he can go back in the draft, but he would give up so much money and risk so much money that is guaranteed his way if he were to do this. It would be a year away from football. He would have to have the faith that someone's going to take him earlier. And at that point, this is a small little note in a contract that includes millions and millions of dollars that are coming his way. Is he really willing to sacrifice it to fight and die on this hill? I don't know about that.
We shall see. Will the Cincinnati Bengals continue to fight? We shall see. And hopefully by training camp, all of it is settled. We appreciate the hell out of you, Schrags, for joining us on this glorious Tuesday. You're the man.
You're the best. Real quick, everyone's in con and enjoying I like you guys are in the studio, you're working, you're doing the job, and you're not flexing on some yacht like the rest of our industry. Thank you.
I'll tell you what, our industry deserves to do whatever the hell they want, and our industry hopefully is one that continues to go up. Continues to do that. You're the man, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Schrager.
Yeah,